Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix and welcome back to another mod guide. This time we're digging into Death Trooper Peridea. He is a new attacker introduced for the Great Mothers team. Strong guy, I can't wait to dig into him. Before we get too far, let's go ahead and run the TLDR for Death Trooper Peridea. Set types should be crit damage and crit chance, or if you've got strong crit chance secondaries, you could spring for a 2-piece of health. Arrow primary should be speed, circle should be health, triangle should be crit damage, and cross could ideally be a health primary with a strong percent offense secondary, or barring that, just percent offense will do. Turn order, he is third on our team. He has an AoE tenacity down, which is fantastic for him to get out onto the field ahead of whoever your other attackers are. Stat priority should be speed over offense over health. You do want this guy fairly fast, so getting him up to that speed mark is a good choice. Bear in mind that he needs to be modded so that he's ahead of your Night Trooper, but he has a unique that gives him a bunch of flat speed, so you don't actually need to put as much speed on him as is required to be ahead of Night. Just check that against your Night Trooper and make sure that you are still going to be just ahead. And his stat priority should be speed over offense over health, I think. Yeah, you want to have him pretty quick. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and refresh ourselves about the leadership we're running under. Great Mother's effects and her unique as well. Great Mother's leadership highlights Threads of Destiny. Nightsister allies gain 30% defense, max health, and 30 speed. Blessed allies have plus 20% max health and offense. Great Mother's unique, to the old ways, says that Nightsister allies gain 30% accuracy, max health, and tenacity, but cannot be revived. Whenever an enemy is critically hit, Great Mothers and all blessed allies gain 1% offense, stacking for 2 turns, and recover 2% protection, doubled if the enemy had vulnerable. Okay, so first up, let's talk about his unique, in your head. Death Trooper Peridea gains 25 speed. Imperial Remnant allies have plus 35% critical chance and offense. Nightsister allies have plus 35% max health and max protection. Wow! When you think about the max health given out from Great Mothers, then you're thinking about Morgan Elsbeth's unique that's giving a little bit of health but 50% protection. There are crazy, insane stat gains all over this team. If the ally in the leader slot is not an Imperial Remnant tank, so not DTMG, whenever an Imperial Remnant ally is dazed, stunned, shocked, or inflicted with speed down, all Imperial Remnant allies gain 15 speed, stacking, maximum of 60, for the rest of the battle. Whenever an Imperial Remnant ally is critically hit, remove 3% turn meter from all enemies. Death Trooper Peridea gains 5% turn meter stacking for each stack of blight inflicted on an enemy. So he is having a powerful synergy here, running under Enoch lead. Like if you're wanting him to run under an Imperial Remnant lead that is not DTMG, then right now it's only Enoch. We think in the future, when Galactic Legend Thrawn is added, that he'll be Imperial Remnant, but until then, the only way you can really seize this advantage is under Enoch's lead. That said though, this call out to Blight, he is meant to be tied at the hip, at least in 5 versus 5, with Night Trooper to get the maximum benefit, I would say. Alright, next up is his basic, Firing by Rote. Deal physical damage to target enemy. If the target enemy already had Blight, this attack deals double damage. If this attack scores a critical hit, all Imperial Remnant allies gain offense up for 1 turn. Otherwise, Death Trooper Peridea gains crit chance up for 1 turn. While in Territory Wars, and if Death Trooper Peridea has their Omicron activated, gain 5 stacks of Siphon when this ability is used. Yeah, spoiler, I said in the Great Mothers video that this team's probably just going to end up being some type of staple in Territory War going forward, and he contributes to it because he also has a TW Omicron. Alright, his first special, Just a Little Nibble. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict blight, which can't be dispelled until the end of the encounter or until they recover to full health. If the target enemy already had Blight, also inflict 2 stacks of damage over time for 2 turns, and remove 5% turn meter from the target enemy 3 times. If this ability takes an enemy below 10% health, instantly defeat them, excluding raid bosses and galactic legends. If this ability defeats an enemy, Death Trooper Peridea gains a bonus turn, and this ability's cooldown is reset. And yes, I have seen the AI do bite into bite into bite into bite, just closing out a whole team that way. So that's pretty cool. All right, I'm not going to read out this whole Territory War Omicron, but this is adding Siphon onto him. Siphon's a fairly rare mechanic. It allows him to actually stack crit damage. His crit damage percentage will increase over the course of the fight. Really like it, guys. It's a strong team. All right, second special, Necrotic Tissue. Deal physical damage to all enemies and inflict offense down and tenacity down for 2 turns. If the ally in the leader slot is an Imperial Remnant support, Enoch, maybe you would think Thrawn later, because Thrawn right now in the game as an Empire unit is a support, so kind of follows. Anyway, if the ally in the leader slot is an Imperial Remnant support, dispel all buffs from all enemies. If the target enemy already had Blight, inflict a stack of Blight, which can't be dispelled, on a random enemy that doesn't already have it until the end of the encounter, or until they are restored to full health. All allies gain offense up and speed up for 2 turns. And then, of course, while in Territory Wars, and if Death Trooper Peridea has his Omicron, then it does an additional 40% active. Gosh, there's a percentage of critical damage. Oh my god. And then the leader, if the leader's an Imperial Remnant support, DTP gains 10 stacks of Siphon. Man, he is pretty well suited for being in TW. So, I do, as I'm making this video, recording this now, there are several callouts for this guy to still be super effective under an Imperial Remnant lead. Enoch, even DTMG. So the fact that I'm mostly thinking about this with Great Mothers is a luxury. You can have some flexibility with how you apply this character. All right, so a brief word on team comps and turn order. So in the Great Mothers video, which I'll have a link to in this description, she's going to end up being the first, followed by Morgan, and then your third character. I've seen Nightsisters Spirit and Death Trooper Peridea be the best thirds so far in the one season of 3 versus 3 that we've had with this team. As far as 5 versus 5 goes, all these characters are shown in the desired turn order. So use, mod accordingly to make that happen. You see that I have DTP ahead of Night Trooper. Night Trooper, just for reference's sake, I have him modded about 334, right? And my Death Trooper is 310. Because with his unique giving 25 speed, he'll be 335, just ahead of the Night Trooper. So that's what I mean when just consider that unique when you're modding him, because you don't need to really have him all that extra more blazing when you have that 25 speed cushioning you. In 5 versus 5, though, I do consider him part of the core 4. Great Mothers, Morgan, Death Trooper, and Night Trooper, ideally popping off in that turn order. And then for your 5th, you have an option. You can go one of several ways. And again, I cover this in more detail in the Great Mothers video, but for a lot of circumstances, I kind of see myself going with Talia. All right, let's now turn to talking about the mods themselves. I'll show you a few different ways that, there's not a lot of variety here, but me and a few other players have some nuance between us, so I wanted to show that. First, here's my crit damage and health set. You recall that he's got, first of all, you see he has a crit chance at Relic 8, very high 90s, right? So I'm going to amend that in my TLDR here, but I do think that, it should be health or crit chance, like that. I would prefer you to have health, because his crit chance is so high, and he doesn't really need a lot of help with it. Now, if you really wanted to make sure that you're covered for the variety of crit avoidance teams and stuff that are becoming more common, you might make sure that you have enough crit chance to get up to 100%, or 110% rather. But basically, being in the high 90s, granted, I wouldn't put a lot of effort into it. All right. Speed-wise, like I said, I made him about 310. I wanted to be 300 plus. You could be maybe 290, 280, I guess. It depends on what you're fighting, but clearly the faster the better, okay? Again, it's just important that you have him set up so that ideally he's popping off just ahead of Night Trooper. That would be great. The crit damage bonus, of course, is there. Potency, he's got very high potency at just over 100%. Now, he's also putting down tenacity down, so hopefully for a little while you'll have a freebie for passing your potency checks. But him having a decent amount of base potency means that his couple of other debuffs have a good chance of getting out without any special effort. No potency 2 set required. Offense, yeah, this character is Relic 9, but at Relic 8, the damage I'd say is somewhere around 10,600, 10,550, something like that. All right, so very high offense, and you'll see that I actually have the health primary cross here. You could go with that offense primary cross and be just fine, but if you can cultivate something like this, it's amazing, right? You've got the 30% health from Great Mother's Lead. He's got 35% max health and protection from his own unique. Like, it's bonkers the survivability these guys have. And if you can, it makes sense that you'd prefer to go with the bulk primary if you could, with that health primary, because none of these characters could be revived. With one life to live, give them as much life as possible. So yeah, here at Relic 9, I'm just pushing up on 11k offense in the crit damage set. These are very strong numbers. I'd say maybe Relic 8, like 10,500, Relic 7, maybe closer to 10,000, something like that. And then as far as other players, how they've got them set up, here is Kabuki Warriors. So he went with crit chance and crit damage, okay? He's just over 300 speed. He's got an offense primary and offense cross, okay? So he decided to go all the way into the damage. A little bit of added potency at over 110%. I like it. It's not bad. Here he is. Are you also Relic 9? Yeah, he's Relic 9 and he's 10,500, so only 400 damage off from me. Okay. And what does he got? Yeah, I mean he's pretty well set up. So it's fairly similar to my build, but he's just using more damage primaries than I am. All right, and then you've got Aesop Rock. He's got speed as the arrow, crit damage triangle, offense primary, again with the health circle, just over 300 speed, a little bit added potency to be up over 110%. I wonder if that's incidental. I think it might be. A little potency is nice, but I don't see why in particular the 110. Nevertheless, this is why I'm showing you other players. Maybe you want to smidge and tweak just for that little bit more. 10,700 offense. Again, this is a Relic 8 character, so he'd be right up about mine if he Relic 9 this. An extraordinary amount of crit chance. He's actually got 126% here. So he really wants to make sure his stuff is going to land, okay, as a crit. And when you're in a crit damage set, that's very important. So fair enough. Okay. As far as applications goes, again, I'll refer you back to the main Great Mothers video where I cover this in some detail. But the bottom line is we've only had one 3 versus 3 season with this team, and they're also modified by this incredibly bespoke Datacron that just blows this team up to massive proportions. This level 9 ability on the Great Mother's Cron is meta-defining for that last season of 3 versus 3, and it's difficult to see where this team's going to fall after that Cron expires. But, you know, for anybody watching this in the future, I'd be remiss to not mention the significance of it, because at the time of this recording, in this last season of 3s, JMK and Slacker were the only 2 applicants that need show up for the job, because everybody else will be turned away, okay? The win rates for things that are not JMK and Slacker last season against this team are abysmal. So DTP is part of that recipe in 3s. It can be more dangerous for this Slacker counter because the AoE that DTP throws can kill Slacker when he's reducing his max health, doing all his turn meter loops. So something worth considering there. All right, I think that about wraps this one up. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe to see more. I always appreciate interacting with you guys in the comments and, of course, on Discord. Until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.